Chapter 1228, Dragon and Phoenix Grocery Store 10. Aspect, Purple Thunder striding through the air. The supernatural ability of the spirit Xilin. Wang Xian had a deep understanding of the supernatural ability of the spirit Xilin. Even when facing the territory of fire, it was able to stomp it to pieces. Dong dong dong. A dull sound rang out. It was as deafening as spring thunder. Purple thunderbolts gathered under the front hooves of the spirit Xilin. Terrifying energy filled the surroundings. If they were not in the sky, if they were not surrounded by the Earth's ceiling aspect, they would have been able to destroy everything within a 5 to 6 kilometer radius. Ah, die! The 9-star dynasty's insightful void martial artist revealed a desperate expression. Around him, more than 10-meter-long crimson gold blades revolved around him, directly attacking Ling Xilin and the Blood Evil Turtle. When the two beasts saw his attack, their eyes were still filled with ferocity and violence. Roar! Roar! Ling Xilin charged forward. His front hooves stepped in the air, and lightning tore through the air. From afar, it seemed as if space had split apart. The Blood Evil Turtle also roared, and the surrounding Earth sealing aspect rapidly pressed over. Earth sealing not only had the ability to seal space, but it could also unleash terrifying attacks. Otherwise, it could not be called a divine ability. Wang! 3 Dharma images and 3 terrifying attacks charged forward at a terrifying speed. Everyone in the surroundings watched this scene with shocked expressions. Even on those large buildings, many experts at the Profound Void tier were standing on them, coldly watching the battle over here. A battle at the Profound Void tier, and one that required one to fight to the death, was not something that could be seen frequently in the Ladyboy graveyard. Every Profound Void tier expert cherished their lives very much. Without absolute confidence, 2 Profound Void tier experts rarely faced each other in life and death. Moreover, it was somewhat difficult to kill a Profound Void tier expert. If the other expert were to escape with his life, it would be very difficult to kill a Profound Void tier expert. But here, there was clearly some surprise. 2 level 1 Profound Void tier dire beasts against an ordinary Profound Void tier expert. Most importantly, the Blood Fiend Turtle's earth-sealing divine ability. This ability was most powerful in terms of defense and sealing. Die, 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 die. Boom. 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 Purple lightning stepped into the air, earth-sealing, Golden Blade Huanyu. Purple lightning stepped into the air and clashed with Golden Blade Huanyu, emitting a terrifying aura of destruction. The 9-star Dynasty Void Interpretation expert revealed a crazed expression. If he couldn't block this attack, he would die. The Golden Blade Huanyu and the Purple Lightning Stomp collided, and the 2 terrifying energies quickly dissipated. More than 10 golden blades quickly dissipated. It's over. At this moment, what made the 9-star Dynasty's Void Interpretation expert despair was that the Earth Seal's attack had arrived. The Earth Seal used 4,000-meter thick earth walls to press towards the enemy. As it pressed down, the Earth Seal became smaller and smaller, finally forming a thick yellow earth stone. Under the control of the Blood Evil Turtle, the earth stone passed through the side of the Spirit Purple Qilin and directly pressed down on the Insightful Emptiness Realm expert. The 9-star Dynasty Insightful Emptiness Realm expert, who was already at a disadvantage, was once again struck by the Earth Seal. The golden blade quickly collapsed. Ah! An unwilling scream sounded out, but it quickly stopped. The 9-star Dynasty's Insightful Void tier powerhouse directly collapsed. Dead! The death of the Insightful Void tier powerhouse caused the fat youth, Zhou Liang, who was standing at the side, to look ashen. Behind him, the 5 young men and women who were still alive also had expressions of despair. Since the Insightful Void tier powerhouse was dead, what strength did they have to resist? None at all. They looked at Zhou Liang, who was standing in front of them, with a savage expression. If it weren't for this damned fellow, if they had killed this damned fat pig just now, how could they have faced such a situation? They hated him. Crackle crackle. Just as Zhou Liang and the other 3 were filled with despair, the lightning of death had already arrived. Ling Zilin flicked his tail disdainfully, and a bolt of purple lightning landed directly on the 6 of them. However, there were 7 or 8 extraordinary realm cultivators and even 6 realm cultivators who died under Ling Zilin's lightning. It was as if they had never been to this world before. It's over. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they were slightly shocked. They saw 2 incomparably savage beasts come to the side of the young man, and their eyes flickered. Some of them looked at the unimpressive grocery store behind them. The name of the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store also caught the attention of many people. Haha, good, good. Brother Wang Xian, these 2 ferocious beasts of yours are really powerful. Long Xiaotian's eyes were slightly shocked when he saw an insightful void martial artist being killed on the spot. He said loudly with a face full of joy. They are the ones who are courting death. They came to my shop to collect fees and even wanted to take my things. Wang Xian shook his head lightly and said, they deserve to die. However, other than them, there are also some people who deserve to die. As Long Xiaotian spoke, he turned his head and looked at Yin Xianfeng and the rest behind the 8th prince. His eyes were filled with mockery. Wang Xian also turned his head and looked over with a smile. Humph. Yin Xianfeng's expression was extremely awkward. He turned his head and looked to the side. Hee, impressive, impressive. This brother Wang Xian's strength is really impressive. I'm sorry for offending you just now. When the 8th prince saw Long Xiaotian with his head held high and a cold smile on his face, his expression was also extremely awkward. He took a deep breath and cupped his hands at Wang Xian. Let's go. As he spoke, he shouted with a solemn face. He turned around and was about to leave. When Long Xiaotian saw the 8th prince leaving with an embarrassed expression, he was in a great mood and felt extremely happy. 8th prince, did I ask you to leave? At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. Long Xiaotian, who was at the side, was slightly stunned. He looked at Wang Xian, who was beside him, in astonishment. Even the 8th prince, who had just taken 2 steps, froze. What? You're such a brother? Do you still want to keep me here? The 8th prince turned his head slowly with a gloomy face. His eyes were staring at Wang Xian as he said coldly. Are you here to kill me and still want to return safely? Wang Xian looked at the 8th prince's cold gaze and smiled. He walked forward slowly until he was about 100 meters away from the 8th prince. Beside him, Ling Zilin and the blood-evil turtle were following him. Their bloodthirsty and brutal eyes were staring at the 8th prince and the rest. Ha 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 ha. When the 8th prince heard Wang Xian's words, he suddenly burst into laughter. He stared at Wang Xian and his smile slowly disappeared. His eyes turned cold. You won't let me return safely? Do you have the ability to do so? Do you have the ability to touch me? Do you have the right to touch me? The 8th prince pointed at Wang Xian with disdain in his eyes. So what if he had 2 beasts at the insightful void tier? Chapter 1229, in terms of killing and humiliation. The Light Dragon dynasty was the strongest force in the entire Luhai region apart from the Blood Flow Empire. There were only a handful of forces that could be compared to them. As one of the princes that the king valued the most, if they wanted to touch him, it would undoubtedly be a slap to the face of the entire Light Dragon dynasty. Especially during the selection of the crown prince, even Long Xiaotian, who was the prince, didn't dare to touch him. Let alone others. He did not know about Wang Xian's background, but he firmly believed in the strength of his background. Faced with Wang Xian's words, his face was filled with disdain and a cold smile. What is that young man trying to do? Could he be targeting the 8th prince? I don't think so. After all, he is the prince of the Radiant Dragon Empire. If he dares to touch the 8th prince, the entire Radiant Dragon Empire will not let him off. No matter how strong he is, it's useless. He must be dissatisfied with the 8th prince's actions just now and wants to vent his anger. When the surrounding people saw what Wang Xian said, they were astonished. All of them stared at Wang Xian with flickering eyes. Brother Wang Xian, although my eighth brother is annoying, I really can't touch him. Long Xiaotian frowned slightly and said to Wang Xian. He was really afraid that Wang Xian would act on impulse. Wang Xian took a glance at Long Xiaotian and smiled. He turned his head to look at the eighth prince again and patted the two ferocious beasts beside him. His gaze turned cold as he said, "The prince of the Guanglong dynasty is very powerful. He, I can't do anything to you." But as Wang Xian spoke, his eyes were filled with killing intent. He stared at Yin Xianfeng and the rest of the Six Elements sect and said, "Today, I want them to die. Eighth prince, let me tell you today. If you kill Yin Xianfeng and the rest before me, today's matter will be over. If not, if not, what do you dare to do? Arrogant, what an arrogant fellow." When the eighth prince heard Wang Xian's words, he was extremely furious. He revealed a ferocious expression and shouted loudly, "If not, all your subordinates will die except for you." Wang Xian stared at him indifferently as he spoke. Roar! Roar! When he finished speaking, the two ferocious beasts beside him didn't hesitate at all. One bolt of lightning and one earth spike after another attacked the subordinates behind the eighth prince. Without any warning, they attacked directly. The middle-aged man standing beside the eighth prince's face changed, and the majestic power on his body shook. He waved his arm, and a golden screen directly blocked in front of him, blocking the attacks of the spirit purple Qilin and the blood evil turtle. Roar roar! The blood evil turtle's body moved, and it directly flew into the sky. Its pair of bloodshot eyes stared below, ready to attack at any time. The eighth prince's face changed greatly, and the expressions of the subordinates behind him also changed drastically. Yin Xianfeng and the others widened their eyes. This! Damn, is he threatening the eighth prince? How dare he? This is too violent. He wants to directly deal with the eighth prince's subordinates. Isn't he afraid that the eighth prince will take revenge on him after he inherits the throne? The pupils of the surrounding people shrank slightly when they saw this scene, and their faces revealed shock. He had directly confronted the eighth prince. This was too violent. If the eighth prince really had a chance to ascend to the throne in the future, he would definitely suffer his revenge. No one dared to offend the prince of the Light Dragon dynasty to such an extent. They didn't show any mercy at all. Long Xiaotian, who was at the side, was also slightly stunned. His eyes flickered. You! How dare you! When the eighth prince heard Wang Xian's words, his expression changed drastically. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at Wang Xian and roared furiously. You dare! I'll give you 10 seconds. Either you kill Yin Xianfeng and the rest immediately and throw them to my side. Or, it'll depend on the luck of all your subordinates. Let's see how many of them can walk out of this place alive. Wang Xian stared at the eighth prince with a cold gaze. His face was filled with disdain. 10, 9, 8, 7. After Wang Xian finished speaking, without any hesitation, he started the countdown of 10 seconds. When the countdown started, the eighth prince's face was filled with horror. When he heard Wang Xian's voice, he gritted his teeth. However, looking at his cold expression, he could feel the killing intent in the eyes of the two ferocious beasts. He didn't doubt what Wang Xian said at all. Eighth prince! The expression of the insightful void martial artist who was standing beside the eighth prince changed slightly. He had witnessed the battle prowess of the two beasts with his own eyes. Even if they couldn't use their Dharma idol after the battle, if the two demonic beasts wanted to deal with them. If one of the beasts could restrain him, the remaining people would be slaughtered by the other beast. Without him around, the subordinates behind the eighth prince would be slaughtered easily. When the eighth prince heard the words of the middle-aged man beside him, he turned his head stiffly with an uncertain expression on his face. Eighth brother, you don't have to be afraid. If this brother of mine really makes a move, I'm afraid of hurting you by accident. Come to me and I will protect you. At this moment, Long Xiaotian's gloating voice was heard. He didn't expect Wang Xian to dare to be so tough on his younger brother. However, when he saw this scene, he was in a great mood. No matter what happened today, his younger brother was going to suffer a heavy loss today. When the 8th prince heard the mocking voice, he clenched his fists tightly. 5, 4, 3. Wang Xian's voice was still ringing in his ears. 8th prince. Behind the 8th prince, Yin Xianfeng's face was filled with fear. He shouted softly and stared at Wang Xian with bloodshot eyes. Let me tell you, if you dare to kill me, the people of our 6 Elements sect will definitely not let you off. 1. When Yin Xianfeng's face was filled with malevolence as he roared loudly. When Wang Xian's last word fell. When the 2 ferocious beasts were about to attack. The insightful void martial artist who was standing beside the 8th prince moved. A huge axe appeared in his hand. He waved it gently and landed directly on Yin Xianfeng's body. The terrifying golden light directly submerged him. Following closely, the golden light covered the group behind him. The group of senior and junior brothers who followed Yin Xianfeng died immediately. When the surrounding people saw this scene, their hearts trembled violently. The 8th prince actually killed his subordinates, Yin Xianfeng and the others who had pledged allegiance to him. One had to know that Yin Xianfeng was a heaven's chosen. If he killed a heaven's favorite who had pledged allegiance to him, who would dare to pledge allegiance to him in the future? Who would dare to be his subordinate? Although everyone understood that this was something the 8th prince had no choice but to do, killing him was still killing him. This had already become a huge stain. The 8th prince's subordinates were slightly silent. The 8th prince's body was slightly trembling. He lowered his head, and his eyes were extremely red. The discussions around him entered his ears once again. He could feel the mocking smile on his second brother's face. He was unwilling to accept this. Brother Yin Xianfeng, don't worry. I, Long Xiaoyun, will definitely pay you back tenfold for today's grudge. He raised his head abruptly and looked at the corpses behind him as he growled in a low voice. He looked at Wang Xian once again and grinned. Are you satisfied now? Chapter 1230, Killed and Humiliated. Are you satisfied now? He stared at Wang Xian and his eyes were filled with a sinister look. Everyone could feel the ice-cold chill that the 8th prince had towards Wang Xian. The grin on his face was as though he wanted to devour Wang Xian. The 8th prince is now a sworn enemy of that young man. That's right. The moment there's a chance, the 8th prince will definitely kill that young man. The surrounding people whispered as they looked at the 8th prince's expression. Even Long Xiaotian's expression was slightly solemn. In the Radiant Dragon Empire, the few princes who were comparable to him all had powerful backgrounds. A prince who was enraged was extremely terrifying. Today, he was forced by Wang Xian to kill his subordinates in public. It was impossible for him not to take revenge. As a prince, he couldn't afford to lose face. When Wang Xian saw the murderous look in his eyes and the determination on his face, a cold smile slowly appeared on his face. Not satisfied. 3 words came out of his mouth. Beside Wang Xian, waves of aura rose. What? When Wang Xian said these 3 words, everyone was slightly stunned. Even the 8th prince's face, which was filled with killing intent, was a little stiff. 8th prince, since you want to avenge your dead brother, you might as well take more revenge. Wang Xian stared at the 8th prince coldly and laughed out loud. Idiot, since you want me to pay you back tenfold, I will make you suffer 10 times more. Kill for me. Wang Xian waved his hand and ordered. Roar! 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 With that order, the 2 beasts didn't hesitate at all and attacked the 8th prince and his men. At this moment, the 8th prince was completely stunned. Everyone around was stunned. Even Long Xiaotian opened his mouth slightly. Since we have offended him, we should offend him more thoroughly. It's best to beat him to death. This young man is not simple-minded. Around them, an insightful emptiness realm expert who was watching the show from a building had a glint in his eyes as he commented indifferently. Qing Shan, go and fetch my good brother over. Don't let him get hurt. Long Xiaotian's eyes flickered as he said to Bai Qing Shan, who was standing at the side with a smile on his face. It's the second prince. Bai Qing Shan took a deep look at Wang Xian and flew toward the eighth prince. Your Royal Highness the eighth prince, come over here. Don't get hurt. As he spoke, he waved his arm. A surge of energy wrapped around the eighth prince and pulled him over. You! How dare you! Stop! If you dare to kill my men, at Long Xiaoyun, swear that I will not let you off. Stop! The eighth prince regained his senses and roared at Wang Xian with bloodshot eyes. He was filled with killing intent. Wang Xian stared at him. A hint of killing intent flashed in his eyes. You better shut up, Your Highness the eighth prince. You! Sensing Wang Xian's killing intent, the eighth prince clenched his teeth tightly. His teeth were almost crushed. Ah! A scream came from the side, causing the eighth prince to turn his head with bloodshot eyes. His heart was bleeding. On the battlefield, the blood evil turtle was locked onto the insightful emptiness realm expert. It did not make a move. Ling Zilin was crazily slaughtering the eighth prince's subordinates at the side. How could that group of warriors who had not reached the insightful emptiness realm be a match for an insightful emptiness realm vicious beast? Every strike killed more than 10 people. The insightful emptiness realm expert who was standing there was filled with helplessness. He knew that the eighth prince had provoked a ruthless person this time. The other party wanted to completely kill all his subordinates. He had painstakingly built up over 100 subordinates and used an entire year's time. He had used almost half of his assets. However, he had been annihilated in one move. The death of these subordinates represented that the eighth prince's influence had been reduced to the extreme. It was possible that any of the weaker princes would be stronger than his influence. In this assessment, it would be 10 times more difficult for the eighth prince to stand out. The insightful void martial artist did not move, and neither did the blood evil turtle. He knew that the opponent's goal was to kill all of the eighth prince's subordinates. He was doomed, completely doomed. Eighth brother, go back to the palace. Go back to the palace and have a good time. Long Xiaotian looked at the eighth prince's number of subordinates decreasing rapidly. His face was full of smiles as he spoke to him indifferently. The eighth prince didn't say anything with his blood-red eyes. Instead, he stared at Wang Xian with hatred. In less than 2 minutes, the miserable shrieks had completely ended. Ling Zilin swept his gaze across the surroundings and walked towards Wang Xian with his head slightly raised. The blood evil turtle also slowly crawled over. The Dragon and Phoenix grocery store is opening today. Thank you for the congratulatory gift from His Highness the Eighth Prince. Wang Xian scanned his surroundings and looked at the tens of thousands of people gathered around him. He let out a light shout with a smile on his face. When the eighth prince heard Wang Xian's words, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of fresh blood. He almost fainted. When he came, he was aggressive. He led more than 100 subordinates and looked as though he was confident of killing Wang Xian. However, all of his subordinates were killed. There was only one insightful void martial artist and himself. There was a hint of despair in his dispirited expression. How could he still be as high-spirited as before? It could be said that today, the eighth prince of the Light Dragon Empire was humiliated by that young man. Everyone around looked at the eighth prince, then at Wang Xian, and finally at the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store. All of this was because of this small store. When the crowd saw that the matter was over, they dispersed immediately. They were all discussing this matter excitedly. At the same time, a young man with 2 ferocious beasts and a Dragon and Phoenix grocery store entered the sight of many people. And today's matter would definitely become a joke for the next period of time. The crowd dispersed. Wang Xian gestured to Long Xiaotian and walked into the shop. "Awo, oh. At this moment, a cry was heard. Following that, Wang Xian sensed a figure flying towards him. Wang Xian looked over and Xiao Ha flew onto his shoulder excitedly. Three-eyed spiritual dog pup. Long Xiaotian looked at the pet that flew onto Wang Xian and revealed a hint of shock on his face. He sized up Xiaoha carefully. A beauty is here. Wang Xian raised his head and looked ahead. Yes. Ling Jian saw Xiaoha flying directly onto Wang Xian's shoulder. Her expression was a little ugly as she replied indifferently. Let's go. Wang Xian didn't mind such a cold face. In his opinion, this was a rich lady. As he spoke, he grabbed Xiaoha in his hand and walked straight into the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store. However, Long Xiaotian, who was standing beside Wang Xian, was stunned when he saw Ling Jian's figure. He widened his eyes and was filled with shock. When the eighth prince saw Ling Jian, he was also slightly stunned. He looked at her and then at Wang Xian. His expression was even uglier. Chapter 1231, On top of the shocking grocery store. Wang Xian walked straight into the store. Long Xiaotian would occasionally turn his head and glance at Ling Jian who was following him. His eyes were sparkling. Bai Qingshan and the old man followed closely behind. Their eyes were also filled with astonishment. They waved at the people behind them and followed them into the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store. After entering the store, Wang Xian looked at Ling Jian behind him and said, "The golden lotus tree is upstairs. Take a look at the first floor and see if there are any items that you need. We can buy them together now." As he spoke, he pointed at the items around him. There are so many weapons and treasures. Long Xiaotian, who followed them into the store, looked ahead and was slightly stunned. There were rows and rows of weapons and armor on the walls. The lowest level was at Transcendent level 7 or 8. Apart from the weapons and armor, there were even more precious sets. There were all kinds of them, at least thousands of them. Apart from these, there were 2 pet eggs and a few fierce beasts. When he saw the 5 little yen monkeys, his eyes shone with a blazing light. A half-step void interpretation level demonic beast cub, This even has the bloodline of a half-step void interpretation level ferocious beast. My god! When he saw the 2 well-sealed bloodlines at the side again, his eyes widened with a fiery expression. The bloodline of a half-step void interpretation level ferocious beast. This thing was extremely rare. A bloodline of this level would sell for at least 50 to 60 billion middle-grade spirit stones. Even though he was a prince of the Guanlong dynasty and was well-informed, he was still stunned when he saw the items in Wang Xian's grocery store. Bai Qingshan and the core experts who followed the second prince widened their eyes when they saw the items around them. They were filled with shock. This was a grocery store. Was this a grocery store? Damn it, everything inside could be auctioned off. Especially the young demonic beast, the half-step void interpretation bloodline, and the pet eggs. The complete set of weapons, armor, and boots was a huge treasure trove. How could the items inside a grocery store be so terrifying? This is the first floor. Most of the items on the first floor are below the void interpretation level. The items on the second floor are used by the void interpretation experts. There are some weapons, armor, and formations of the void interpretation level. Wang Xian smiled when he saw their shocked expressions. Let's go upstairs. Ling Jian scanned the surroundings and said to Wang Xian calmly. All right. Wang Xian nodded and led them upstairs. As soon as they entered the second floor, waves of powerful auras could be felt. The blade, the sword aura, and the thick and heavy armor all contained a strong fluctuation. On the second floor, there were more weapons. There were more than 10 void interpretation level longswords, but the 5th level void interpretation level longsword was not taken out because few people could afford it. The highest level was a 3rd level void interpretation level longsword. On the entire second floor, there were about 20 weapons and armor. In addition, there was a golden lotus tree and a 2nd level void interpretation formation. Hiss! As soon as they entered, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They stared at the weapons and armors with burning eyes. This This, Brother Wang Xian, where? Where did you get so many treasures? Oh my god, this grocery store is crazy. Long Xiaotian stared at Wang Xian with his eyes wide open and asked with a face full of shock. It's alright. I'm ready to sell all the items here as soon as possible. Wang Xian smiled faintly and looked at Ling Jian, who was beside him. After all, this kind of thing is not something that weapons and armor can compare to. Wang Xian said directly. I don't have so much spiritual liquid. Ling Jian frowned slightly and said. How much do you have? Wang Xian frowned slightly and asked her. Only 13,000. We are still short of 7,000. She said directly. How long will it take to get the remaining 7,000? Wang Xian looked at her. I'll give it a try. It shouldn't be a problem for half a month. Ling Jian said with a frown. Alright, give me the 13,000 spiritual liquid and I'll keep the golden lotus tree for you. Wang Xian stretched out his hand with a smile and said to her. You? Why aren't you a gentleman at all? Ling Jian looked at Wang Xian and felt that he was very different from other men. He couldn't even be called a man. I don't take credit for my small business. Why don't you mortgage Xiaoha here? Wang Xian said plainly. Oh whoa. After Wang Xian finished his words, Xiaoha even let out a cooperative cry. This made Ling Jian's face turn black. Mortgage him? When she came to ask for it, Xiaoha would probably not want to be with her anymore. Here, I'll come and get the golden lotus tree in half a month. As she spoke, she threw a porcelain bottle to Wang Xian and snatched Xiaoha away. Then, she walked out with a cold expression on her face. Long Xiaotian was stunned when he saw the conversation between Wang Xian and Ling Jian. Brother Wang Xian, how did you get to know Ling Jian? Long Xiaotian was a little speechless as he asked him. Her? What's wrong? She lives next door to me. Wang Xian looked at him in puzzlement and said. Next door? Brother Wang Xian, don't you know Ling Jian's background? Long Xiaotian stared at him and asked in surprise. Is his background very strong? Wang Xian looked at him. It's not just strong. The young miss of the Heavenly Sword sect, do you think she's strong? Even the current me can't compare to her. Long Xiaotian looked at Ling Jian's disappearing figure and said. Oh? She's really a rich lady. Wang Xian smiled as a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. The Heavenly Sword sect was one of the few powerful forces that could match the Guanglong dynasty. The status of the miss of the Heavenly Sword sect was indeed not simple. Rich lady. Long Xiaotian was a little speechless when he heard his words. He hesitated for a moment before continuing to speak to Wang Xian. Ling Jian's situation is a little special. There is one thing that everyone knows. Ling Jian has been expelled from the Heaven Sword sect. Do you know the reason? The sect leader of the Heaven Sword sect was once known as the most outstanding Heaven's favorite in the Flowing Sea region for 1,000 years. His strength was extremely terrifying. Ling Jian was the first daughter of the sect leader of the Heaven Sword sect. Later on, the sect leader of the Heaven Sword sect married another wife. This was nothing to a powerhouse. The second wife gave birth to a son, which was Ling Jian's younger brother. Ling Jian's younger brother's talent was extremely monstrous, even more monstrous than the sect leader of the Heavenly Sword sect. He was favored by the entire Heavenly Sword sect and was even determined to surpass the sect in the future. However, a few years ago, something happened. Ling Jian's younger brother and her biological mother killed Ling Jian's mother. Chapter 1232, Under the Shocking Grocery Store. Ling Jian found out about this at the first moment. Do you know what she did? She directly killed her brother and his wife. A son that was highly valued by the entire sect and doted on by the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect was killed by his own daughter. Although it was their fault, it still made the Heavenly Sword sect extremely furious. 2 of his wives died, and his son was killed by his daughter. I heard that the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect vomited blood on the spot and directly expelled Ling Jian from the Heavenly Sword sect. He even announced that he would no longer have anything to do with her in the future. After the announcement, the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect went into closed-door cultivation in anger and did not see anyone. He has been in closed-door cultivation for an entire 5 years now. Ling Jian was expelled from the Heavenly Sword sect. The Heavenly Sword sect is also filled with helplessness towards this matter. However, regardless of whether it is the others or the disciples of the Heavenly Sword sect, they all know that Ling Jian is the only daughter of the sect master. Furthermore, Ling Jian who has been expelled, has displayed extraordinary talent. No matter how great the hatred is, it is still no match for blood relations. No one knows if the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect will take her back. Therefore, Ling Jian is in a rather special place in the tomb of the demi-human. No one dares to provoke her, not even the people from the Bloodshed Empire. After all, this is the last bloodline of the sect master of the Heaven Sword sect. There is no guarantee that she will be harmed. It will drive the sect master of the Heaven Sword sect, who has already lost all his family members, crazy. Long Xiaotian slowly told Wang Xian about Ling Jian. I didn't expect her to have such a miserable past. What a pitiful girl. Wang Xian was slightly taken aback as he shook his head lightly. Brother Wang Xian, if you pity her, you can have a deep conversation with her. Maybe one day when her father comes to look for her, you will become the son-in-law of the Heaven Sword sect. Long Xiaotian joked with him. Wang Xian shook his head slightly and said with a smile, her looks are average and she is cold. No man likes her. Long Xiaotian gave him a thumbs up when he heard his words. Then, he scanned his surroundings. If I can have all the items you have here, I will definitely be able to build an invincible battle team. He looked at all the items around him with some envy. Give me 800 billion middle-grade spirit stones. I will give you everything. Wang Xian said to him indifferently. Long Xiaotian almost vomited blood when he heard his words. 800 billion middle-grade spirit stones. Even our Guanglong dynasty's annual income doesn't even amount to 800 billion. I don't even have 80 billion now. The main reason I asked you to come here this time is to ask you to help me advertise. I want to get rid of the items here as soon as possible. Wang Xian smiled when he heard his words. As a reward, you can get something that you like from here. Leave the publicity to me. As for the reward, you are too polite. You have helped me a lot today. Long Xiaotian shook his head with a smile. Brother, you can give it to me if you don't want it. I want that little yen monkey. At this moment, he had just finished his sentence when Long Luo grabbed his arm and said hurriedly. Why would a child want a little yen monkey? Refine your pills properly. Long Xiaotian glared at her and rubbed her head fiercely. You. Alright, I'll give you a yen monkey later. Wang Xian saw Long Luo's angry look and said with a smile. Brother Wang is still the best. Some people are not good at their job at all. Return me my brother. Long Luo revealed an excited look. She quickly grabbed Wang Xian's arm and glared at Long Xiaotian with a mocking look. Brother Wang Xian, how can this be? Wang Xian waved his hand at him. Looking at his expression, he knew that Long Xiaotian might have a request for him. He smiled and said, it's all right. If you have anything, just tell me directly. I will definitely help you if I can. You're welcome. I won't hide it from you. Brother Wang Xian, there really is something. Long Xiaotian rubbed his hands in embarrassment. After all, he didn't come here to help Wang Xian much. On the contrary, he had a huge matter that required Wang Xian's help. The matter of the mount? Wang Xian looked at him and guessed. That's right. It's the matter of the mount. Brother Wang Xian, do you think, can you help? I'm a little short on money recently. I need. Sure. This is a small matter. You can look for me after you find the ferocious beast. Forget about the spirit stones. It's a piece of cake. Wang Xian interrupted him and agreed immediately. Haha, thank you, brother Wang Xian. It's my greatest fortune to know you. Long Xiaotian was so excited that his face turned slightly red when he heard his words. He quickly said. How could he not be excited? He had more than 200 subordinates now. If all of them had mounts that were above Transcendent Level 7. That would be a terrifying cavalry battle team. In fact, with Wang Xian's help during the next year's assessment, he might be able to build a battle team that was not weaker than the most elite of the Guanlong dynasty. By then, the position of Crown Prince would be within his grasp. The other princes were not qualified to compete with him at all. Wang Xian smiled nonchalantly. After chatting with him for a while, he came downstairs and sat up, waiting for customers to arrive. He is even more terrifying than we expected. Walking out of the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store, the old man beside Long Xiaotian said with a sigh. Bai Qing Shan nodded in agreement. His background is definitely not simple. To be able to bring out so many precious treasures and to be proficient in beast taming techniques, the second prince's throne is within reach. That's right. With brother Wang Xian's help, the throne is within reach. Long Xiaotian's heart was filled with fighting spirit. For the first time, he felt that the throne was within reach. Looks like I have to help promote brother Wang Xian's shop. Long Xiaotian mumbled. Boss, what do you sell here? Not long after Long Xiaotian and the rest left, 5 middle-aged men walked into Wang Xian's shop curiously. They looked at the spirit purple qilin and the blood-evil turtle lying on both sides with fear in their eyes. Other than elixirs and spiritual herbs, we have everything else. Come in and take a look. Wang Xian looked at them and said with a smile. All right. The 5 middle-aged men walked in. They were only here out of curiosity. After witnessing the battle just now, they were itching to come in and take a look. Seeing how easygoing Wang Xian was, they heaved a sigh of relief and walked in. Oh my god, there are so many weapons, armor, and complete sets of equipment. Look over there, look, ferocious beasts and demonic beast cubs. Are these for sale as well? What is that? What is that? The half-step void interpretation ferocious beast bloodline. How is that possible? Oh my god. However, very soon, the exclamations of the 5 of them spread throughout the shop. Chapter 1233, Strength had increased by leaps and bounds. Did you guys hear? Yesterday, he killed the 9-star dynasty's void interpretation expert and the youth who killed all the subordinates of the 8th prince of the Dragon dynasty. He actually killed a half-step void interpretation demonic beast cub in his grocery store. What's a half-step void interpretation demonic beast cub? There's a half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline in there. Are there complete sets of Transcendent Level 9 and half-step void interpretation weapons and armor boots? But there are complete sets. There are more than 10 sets. How is that a grocery store? It's practically a treasure trove. It's practically a treasure trove. I heard that there are even void interpretation level items for sale on the 2nd floor. This is crazy. Today, I saw several major powers and diamond mercenary group leaders walking towards that store. I heard that the young owner of that shop is also very powerful. He defeated Yin Xianfeng and even killed the Sword Sect's Heavenly Sword Star. He can be ranked on the prodigy roll now. The entire graveyard of demi-humans became lively. The reason was not that Wang Xian killed an expert at the see-through level, nor was it because he killed the 8th prince's subordinate. The death of an expert at the SETHRUGH level would not cause a commotion in the graveyard of demi-humans. The reason for the commotion was because of the Dragon Phoenix grocery store. It was a store with the bloodline of a half-step void interpretation realm vicious beast, demon beast cubs, complete sets of weapons, pet eggs, and array formations. When he entered the Dragon Phoenix grocery store yesterday with curiosity, he walked out with his eyes wide open and his face filled with shock. Those precious items were items that many people would risk their lives for. Even if Blood Dynasty held an auction once a month, many items could be used as the finale treasures. Now, all of them were sold in this grocery store. This instantly caused a lot of people to boil. At night, thousands of people entered the store with curiosity. When they entered and saw the items, their eyes widened in shock. In the next few days, more and more people went to the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store. A small grocery store was filled with people all day long. In less than 5 days, there were only a few items left in the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store. Only some weapons on the second floor were not sold. The rest of the items were almost all sold out. As there were 2 ferocious beasts at the first level of the Profound Void stage guarding the store, coupled with the fact that Long Xiaotian had been staying in the store for the past few days, many people who harbored ill intentions dispelled their thoughts. The fragrance of wine was not afraid of the depth of the alleyway. Even though Wang Xian had expected that his grocery store would be very popular, he was still surprised that he was able to sell the items one by one so quickly. After all, some items were worth 40 to 50 billion middle-grade spirit stones. It's much faster than I expected. Long Xiaotian said to give the last few weapons of the see-through realm to him. 6 days later, Wang Xian stood in the shop and smiled when he saw that there were not many items left in the entire grocery store. The tomb of the demi-human was the center of the entire Luhai region and the place with the most number of experts. The items that were worth 700 to 800 billion middle-grade spirit stones did not cause much of a stir. There were simply too many wealthy families, kingdoms, and sections. Wang Xian didn't even have the slightest doubt that even if he had 10 times more treasures, he would be able to sell all of them within 1 to 2 months. When I came out, I would never have thought that I would be able to raise my level again in less than 2 months. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile as he looked at the spiritual liquid in the porcelain bottle in his hand. A glint flashed across his eyes. His body shook as he took out a formation to conceal his aura and placed it around him. Then, he took a deep breath. Wang Xian opened the porcelain bottle and swallowed all the spiritual liquid in it into his stomach. Under the transformation of the system, the spiritual liquid transformed into pure dragon energy and entered all 4 limbs of his body. Ding! Congratulations to host for upgrading to extraordinary level 9. Ding! Congratulations to host for comprehending the 3 elemental abilities of metal, water, and wood, metal spirit tree demon. Ding! Congratulations to quality for comprehending the water, fire, and metal elemental ability, metal and fire cleansing. Ding! Congratulations to quality for comprehending the 4 elemental abilities of earth, water, wood, and fire, earth's death. At this moment, the system's voice rang out one after another. It caused Wang Xian's arm to stiffen slightly as his eyes flashed with excitement. Excitement did not come from the increase in level, but from the system's divine ability. 3 divine abilities, just like the last time he upgraded. However, each of these 3 divine abilities was more terrifying than the last. 3 attribute divine abilities, 4 attribute divine abilities. Wang Xian's eyes were filled with excitement. Name, Wang Xian. Race, 5 elemental divine dragon, able to transform into a human. Level, extraordinary level 9. Dragon crystal, 117640/10000000000. Supernatural ability, ruling the water tribe that is lower than one's own level. Devouring creatures to extract dragon crystals. Control of the 5 elements. Cultivation method, divine dragon transformation. Supernatural ability, fire dragon's flame, gold cracked void, descent of the wood realm, water crisis city, fury of the earth, soul capture, spirit possession, light and dark fire dragon eyes, light and dark void, light and dark shadowless, earth dragon shield, light and dark, fire tail of the divine dragon, water spirit, fire territory, water and wood healing, gold spirit tree demon, gold fire cleansing, war of the earth. Dragon Palace, Level 3. Dragon Palace members, 3,366. My level has increased once again. The comprehension of supernatural powers is the real perverse part, Wang Xian couldn't help but laugh out loud in excitement. Gold Spirit Tree Demon, Gold Fire Cleansing, Earth's Death. These three supernatural powers had basically raised his strength to another level on the basis of the increase in his level. As a level 8 transcendent, he was able to kill a level 1 void interpretation when he was in his human form after mastering the combination of three attributes. Now that he was a level 9 transcendent, how strong would he be after mastering the 3 and 4 attributes? Wang Xian was confident that he could crush a level 2 void interpretation when he was in his human form. He could fight against a level 3 void interpretation, but he should not be a match for him. Under the divine dragon form, he could easily kill a level 3 void interpretation and escape when he faced a level 4 void interpretation. This was not just an increase in his strength, but a huge increase in his strength. A person at level 9 of the supernatural realm was able to crush a person at level 2 of the see-through realm. Who would believe it? No one dared to believe it. Even Wang Xian himself in the past was not 100% sure that he could kill him. However, the fusion of the attributes allowed him to fight against a person at a higher level than him on the basis of the divine dragon's body. The fusion of the four attributes and the divine dragon's inheritance allowed him to kill a person at level 3 of the see-through realm at level 9 of the supernatural realm. I understand now. All along, my cultivation has entered a misconception. It's a deformity. I have relied too much on the divine dragon's inheritance and not on myself. Wang Xian looked at the golden spirit tree demon and the golden fire cleansing. He had some thoughts. When humans cultivate, they would cultivate their combat skills before they reach the insightful emptiness realm. They would convert their combat skills into divine abilities. It was the same for transcendence. They would upgrade the battle techniques they cultivated to divine abilities so that they could make breakthroughs. As for himself, he had never cultivated battle techniques. He had relied on the system to randomly obtain divine abilities. Chapter 1234, Heaven's Pride Stage. Wang Xian relied on the system. Due to his deep foundation and inheritance, he would automatically obtain supernatural powers. Sometimes, Wang Xian could even obtain 2 to 3 supernatural powers. However, these supernatural powers were all single-attribute supernatural powers. This was because Wang Xian did not cultivate dual-attribute combat skills. It was only when he reached extraordinary level 8 that his understanding of attributes deepened. He relied on the system to obtain dual-attribute supernatural powers. Even so, it was still considered useless for a 5-elemental divine dragon. When Wang Xian began to comprehend the combination of the two attributes, this upgrade allowed him to comprehend 3 or even 4 attribute divine abilities. During these few days, Wang Xian was also comprehending the combination of attribute attacks while he was selling various items. With the successful examples of the 3 attributes, it was much easier for him to comprehend the next 3 attributes. On the 6th day, he had 2 ideas. One was to use the descent of the wood world as the prototype. By adding the water and metal attributes, he would be able to summon an even more powerful combat object. Through the spirit enchantment, he would make it even more terrifying. Wang Xian used the 5 elements of metal to create wood and wood to create water. After countless attempts, he finally grasped the basics. Furthermore, due to the combination of metal and water, Wang Xian thought of the fire element in this combination of combat techniques. Water countered fire, fire countered metal, and the 5 elements countered each other to form a combat technique. In the end, when Wang Xian broke through to transcendent level 9, the system rewarded him with a divine ability, Gold Spirit Tree Demon, and Gold Fire Cleansing. 2 terrifying divine abilities combined with 3 elements. As for the final battle of the earth, it was probably due to Wang Xian's deepening of his attributes. The system rewarded him with a divine ability that combined 4 elements. This was also the case. Wang Xian had basically mastered the combination of the 3 attributes. It would not be long before he could try the combination of the four attributes. However, the understanding of the four attributes made it easier for Wang Xian to understand the combination of the four attributes in the future. Wang Xian moved his palm slightly. The air in his palm seemed to explode. The four attributes revolved in his palm, causing an excited expression to appear on his face. These are only four attributes. If I can master the combination of the five elements, will I be able to destroy a level 3 or even level 4 void interpretation expert? This is too violent. An excited expression appeared in Wang Xian's eyes. He could control the five elements with a flip of his hand. Phew! In the next few days, I should deepen my attack on the combination of attributes. Wang Xian took a deep breath as his eyes sparkled. After transforming into the divine dragon, he was now able to destroy a level 3 see-through expert. With his strength, he could be considered a top-notch expert even in the graveyard of demi-humans. Some kings of small countries like the Nine Stars Empire were only at level 3 see-through. When his strength increased once again and he mastered the five elements, he would be able to directly destroy a level 4 see-through expert. A level 5 expert could fight him or even destroy him. However, I will need 1 billion dragon crystals for the next level up. If I exchange them for middle-grade spirit stones, I will need more than 10 trillion. Wang Xian looked at the dragon energy required for the next level up and the corner of his mouth twitched. There was one problem. If Wang Xian were to level up again, he would be at the first level of the see-through void stage. He would not be able to reach the half-step see-through void stage. If he were to level up again, he would be able to step into the third transformation of the divine dragon transformation. With the increase in my strength, it would be easier for me to obtain resources. I will go back after I level up to the third change of the divine dragon transformation. Wang Xian thought to himself. Next, he would have to accumulate 10 times the resources that he had obtained previously. After closing the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store, Wang Xian flew towards his residence. He had been staying in the store for the past few days and had not returned. In the next few days, Wang Xian would have to comb through his combination attributes to build a stronger foundation. When he returned to his residence, Wang Xian placed the spirit purple qilin and the blood evil turtle in the courtyard. He returned to his room and began to comprehend them. He still had to continue to improve his mastery of the fusion of the three attributes. Star explosion was fire earth metal. Fire penetrating metal was fire metal water. Metal spirit tree demon was metal water wood. Metal fire cleansing was also fire metal water. He could still continue to combine the four attributes, metal wood fire, metal wood earth, water fire wood, water wood earth. In the following period of time, Wang Xian was immersed in the combination of attributes. The combination of metal, wood, fire, and the brilliant sun combat technique was comprehended. The combination of metal, wood, and earth attributes of the bramble domain combat technique was comprehended. The combination of water, fire, and wood attributes of the spirit poison combat technique was comprehended. The combination of water, wood, and earth attributes of the three spirits combat armor combat technique was comprehended. Wang Xian spent 7 to 8 days to slowly master the combination of the three attributes. After completely mastering the combination of the three attributes, he could easily kill anyone in his human form at the second level of the void interpretation stage. Following that, Wang Xian began to comprehend the fusion of the four attributes. Compared to the three attributes, the difficulty of fusing the four attributes had increased by a few levels. How to perfectly fuse the four attributes and how to make it explode with terrifying power, all of these required a deep understanding. Even with the four attributes, it was still extremely difficult for Wang Xian to comprehend the combined attacks of the four attributes. According to his estimation, if he didn't have any inspiration, he would need at least a few months of practice and comprehension. Awo! Awo! Another few days passed, and Wang Xian heard Xiao He's cry from outside. This made him slightly stunned. He looked at the time and realized that another 2 days had passed. It should be Ling Jian, who has gathered enough spiritual liquid. Wang Xian thought to himself. He moved his body and opened the door. He looked at the wall. As expected, Ling Jian was standing there with Xiao Ha in her arms. Have you gathered enough spiritual liquid? Wang Xian looked at her and asked with a smile. It's time for the agreed time. When she heard this, she frowned slightly and threw a porcelain bottle to Wang Xian. There are still 2,000 left. I will bring it to you as soon as possible. Ha! Wang Xian took the spiritual liquid that she threw over and reached out to catch it. He was slightly surprised when he saw that there were exactly 5,000 drops inside. From Long Xiaotian, he learned some information about Ling Jian and knew that she was the one who obtained the spiritual liquid. He was very surprised that she could obtain 5,000 drops of spiritual liquid in half a month, which was equivalent to 10 billion middle-grade spiritual stones. You're injured again. Wang Xian kept the spiritual liquid into his interspatial ring. When he looked at Ling Jian, who was about to ask some questions, he suddenly saw the injury on her arm. He was slightly stunned. It's inevitable to get injured in a fight. Ling Jian said expressionlessly. I'll give you the golden lotus tree first. If you tell me how you got so much spiritual liquid so quickly, I don't want the rest of the spiritual liquid. Wang Xian threw the golden lotus tree to her and asked. The Heaven's Pride stage is the Heaven's Pride stage left behind by the Bloodstream sect. As long as you step onto the Heaven's Pride stage, you will be rewarded with spiritual liquid. The higher the ranking, the more generous the reward. Ling Jian took the golden lotus tree and said to him expressionlessly. The closer he was to the central area, the more buildings there were in the surroundings. Most of the buildings had already collapsed, but there were still buildings standing in the forest. Wang Xian flew in the sky and looked down with some shock. He looked at the Heaven's Pride stage that appeared in front of him and was even more shocked. The Heaven's Pride stage that was 300 to 400 meters tall contained terrifying energy. There was a huge prodigy roll that was very eye-catching. On the Heaven's Pride roll, the number 1 was Qian Yi, who was 49 years old. The number 2 was Tang Feng, who was 47 years old. The number 3 was Ren Xingchen, who was 33 years old. The number 4 was Ling Jian, who was 30 years old. The number 5 was Luo Shihua, who was 38 years old. The number 6 was Tang Yuan, who was 36 years old. Chapter 1236, No. Versus Heaven's Pride 2. On the Heaven's Pride leaderboard, each and every name was emitting an eye-catching light. Even if they were very far away, they could still be seen clearly. Wang Xian scanned the names on the leaderboard. Oh my god, another black horse has appeared. That Mu Yuan has actually reached the 9th place on the Heaven's Pride leaderboard. Hiss, there are so many black horses these days. The Heaven's Pride leaderboard changes every day. Some of the Heaven's Pride leaderboards in the past were directly pushed down. That's because the Prodigy Bridge will appear in a dozen days. Once it appears, it will connect to the Prodigy stage on the other side of the demonic beasts. At that time, when the prodigies of the human and demon races compete, the demonic beasts will be able to obtain the title of the Prodigy Paragon and receive a large number of rewards. The Prodigy Paragon. This means that in the entire Flowing Sea region, humans and demonic beasts are the strongest of the younger generation. As far as I know, the Prodigy Paragon was only obtained by the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect 100 years ago. For nearly 100 years, it was all the demonic beasts that obtained the title of the Prodigy Paragon. Demonic beasts are born with inheritances. Powerful demonic beasts can reach the level of the see-through void realm within a few decades. There's no way for us to compete with them. I wonder if Senior Qian Yu will be able to obtain the title of Supreme Prodigy this year. The people around also raised their heads to look at the Heaven's Pride roll. The sounds of their conversation entered Wang Xian's ears. Supreme Prodigy. Wang Xian glanced at the list and heard the voices around him. He mumbled softly. His gaze swept across the surroundings. The entire Heaven's Favorites arena was like a huge training square. Groups of young people were gathered here. In the middle of the arena, there were some arenas. There were young people sparring on the arenas, and there were also people fighting on the arenas. The Heaven's Favorites arena had a total height of 500 meters. Anyone could spar on the arenas at the bottom. And above, there were even larger stages. There were 20 stages in total, all the way up to the height of 500 meters in the sky. The smallest of these stages had a radius of 3 kilometers. Even an expert at the profound void tier could fight on it. However, there was an age limit to climbing onto the stage above. The array could detect a person's growth ring. Those with a growth ring of more than 50 were not allowed to step onto the stage. Stepping onto the ring meant challenging a Heaven's Favorite. One had to take out at least 500 drops of spiritual liquid or other treasures in order to have the right to challenge. If the challenge was successful, the item would be returned and the reward would be obtained. This was the rule. From now on, break through the Heaven's Favorite ranking. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile as he walked towards the Heaven's Favorite stage. Although his attire was a little flirtatious, there were more people around the Heaven's Pride stage who were dressed more flirtatiously than him. Some people were riding on a mighty mount and held shiny weapons in their hands. Their aura was even more flirtatious than Wang Xian's. Walking around the Heaven's Pride stage, Wang Xian did not attract the attention of others. He walked straight towards the Heaven's Pride stage. As he passed by one arena after another, there were cheers and cheers from the surroundings as well as the sounds of collisions and shouts. He looked around and saw that all of them were young men below the half-step void interpretation stage. There were even very few of them who were at level 9 of the extraordinaire. He continued walking upwards. Divine Wind Academy's Huang Tian is challenging the Blood Sect's Chen Lin, ranked 20th on the Prodigy roll. At this moment, the entire Heaven's Pride stage shook as a cold voice rang out. Wang Xian was slightly taken aback as he looked over in astonishment. Someone is challenging a Heaven's Pride expert again. Who is this Huang Tian from the Divine Wind Academy? Let's go, let's hurry over and take a look. There are so many battles on the Heaven's Pride stage these few days. All the hidden geniuses have come out. They are trying to step onto the Heaven's Pride bridge. Voices rang out one after another. Following that, Wang Xian saw many people flying towards the Blood Sect. Chen Lin's arena. That was the arena belonging to the 20th ranked Heaven's Favorites. They came to the front of the arena, threw a drop of spiritual liquid into it and entered the arena directly. Has someone already challenged me? He's one step faster than me. Wang Xian thought to himself. With a move of his body, he flew directly to the front of the Heaven's Favorites arena. To enter and watch the Heaven's Favorites competition, one had to pay a fee of 1 drop of spiritual liquid. However, Wang Xian possessed the divine ability, Shadow and Light, also known as No Formation. He could ignore the formation and enter directly. When Wang Xian flew in, he saw 2 young men standing at the front desk. A young man dressed in blood-red clothes was holding a large saber in his hand. His gaze was cold as he stared in front of him. He was Chen Lin from the Bloodstream sect, who was currently ranked 20th on the Heaven's Favorites ranking. In front of him was a black-clothed young man with 2 large words, Divine Wind, engraved on his back. He was the prodigy challenger, Divine Wind Academy's Huang Tian. The Bloodstream sect and Divine Wind Academy were both powerful forces that could rival the Radiant Dragon dynasty. They were both top-tier forces. And nobody from Divine Wind Academy still wants to challenge me. He's really courting death. In front of the arena, Chen Lin stared coldly at the challenger, Huang Tian, and said coldly. You really take yourself seriously. Our senior Huang Tian is the top genius of the academy. After entering seclusion for a year, there really is no tiger or monkey in the mountain that can claim to be the king. That's right. With our senior Huang Tian's strength, you're merely a small start, yet you still dare to speak arrogantly. Opposite Chen Lin, Huang Tian, who was wearing the Divine Wind Academy's clothes, did not speak. He placed his hands behind his back and stared arrogantly at Qinlin. Behind him, more than 20 students of the Divine Wind Academy followed behind him and directly mocked Qinlin. Arrogant, arrogant. Do you really think that bullshit Huang Tian is a match for our senior Qinlin? Senior Qinlin, kill him, kill him. In the surroundings, some disciples of the Bloodstream sect heard the words of the Divine Wind Academy and roared angrily. The Bloodstream sect and the Divine Wind Academy had always had some friction, and it was even more so on the Prodigy stage. Ha, little disciple of the Bloodstream sect, I can defeat you within 10 moves. Huang Tian heard the voices around him and a trace of coldness flashed across his eyes. He laughed loudly and directly flew onto the arena. Come here and die. Standing in the middle of the stage, Huang Tian stared at Qinlin arrogantly. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he stretched out a hand and curled it in a provocative manner. You're courting death. Qinlin's eyes were filled with killing intent. His body moved and he directly flew to the middle of the stage, facing Huang Tian from afar. Make your move. You're just a bunch of small factions. I want to climb higher mountains. Don't waste my time. Chapter 1237, Battle of the Prodigies 3. Heavenly Blade Reincarnation. A terrifying blade light condensed in the arena and slashed forward, signaling the start of the Battle of the Prodigies. In the surroundings, tens of thousands of youths were watching the battle on the arena. Who do you think will win this battle? That Huang Tian from the Divine Wind Academy feels extremely confident. He actually wants to be defeated within 10 moves. Huang Tian. Huang Tian, I remember now. A year ago, Huang Tian, who was ranked 3rd in the Divine Wind Academy, was very strong. However, I haven't heard from him since then. I didn't expect him to be in seclusion for a year. A year ago, Huang Tian had already reached the half-step void interpretation realm. He must be stronger now. Qinlin might not be able to protect his reputation as a heaven's favorite. Wang Xian stood in the air and looked at the two people fighting below. The 3 young men beside him were discussing. That Qinlin is no match for Huang Tian. At this moment, seeing Huang Tian easily blocking Qinlin's attack, Wang Xian had some understanding in his heart. The gap between the two of them was still very obvious. That Huang Tian indeed had the right to be arrogant. Oh no, senior brother Qinlin is obviously not a match for that Huang Tian. Kill him, senior brother Qinlin, kill him. Around them, when 3 moves had passed, the people from the Bloodstream sect saw the battle below and said with furious expressions. Ha, senior brother Huang Tian is invincible. Defeating a person ranked 20th on the prodigy roll is a piece of cake. Today, our senior brother Huang Tian will directly become the biggest dark horse and enter the top 10. When the students of Divine Wind Academy saw senior Huang Tian's relaxed appearance, their faces revealed an excited expression. Another dark horse has appeared. This period of time is simply too crazy. There are so many prodigies appearing. Ren Xingchen from a few days ago, Duan Zhechuan from yesterday, and Huang Tian from today. This simply doesn't allow people to live. Duan Zhechuan has already made it to the 11th place. I reckon that he can still make it to the top few. I just don't know how many places this Divine Wind Academy's Huang Tian can make. The Prodigy Bridge is about to appear. All the hidden prodigies have come out. When the surrounding spectators saw this scene, their faces were filled with astonishment. Ha, the 9th move, lose for me. In less than a minute, a maniacal laughter sounded from below. One could see Huang Tian holding a long sword in his hand. The long sword was not unsheathed. With a shake of his arm, a 100-meter-long sword ray directly attacked Qinlin. Not good. At this moment, Qinlin's face was covered in cold sweat. When he saw Huang Tian's attack, he gritted his teeth in embarrassment. Block it for me. He roared loudly and the surrounding soil within a 100-meter radius started to gather around his body. Although he knew that he was not Huang Tian's match, he still had to endure 10 moves. Huh, you still want to resist? Die! When Huang Tian saw Chen Lin's defense, his eyes revealed a sinister look. A killing intent was hidden in the deepest part of his eyes. Sword explosion. A savage look flashed across his face as he unsheathed his sword. A sharp sword light shot toward Chen Lin, who was defending himself. Oh no, he's going to kill senior brother Chen Lin. It's over. Senior brother Chen Lin has formed a defense, so he won't be able to surrender in time. The expressions of the surrounding people, especially the disciples of the Bloodstream sect, changed drastically. Pooh! 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 In the center of the arena, Chen Lin's expression changed drastically when he saw Huang Tian's attack. A terrifying sword light attacked him, and the Earth Tower's defense quickly crumbled. When the surrounding people heard their conversation, they revealed a look of surprise. Wang Xian's heart stirred slightly. He raised his head to take a look and then continued to lower his head. The entire Heaven's Pride stage became lively. Dark horses appeared one after another. They were all 26-year-old prodigies. The Heaven's Pride stage, where battles occurred every day. The imminent appearance of the Heaven's Pride Bridge attracted many low-key young experts. The rankings of the Heaven's Pride role changed from time to time. Later, someone revealed that a powerful prince from the Hanhai dynasty had arrived and was preparing to deal with Ling Jian Vr. The Heaven Sword sect and the Hanhai dynasty had always been enemies. It had been a long time since an intense battle broke out. The two top forces also watched the battles between the disciples below the Profound Void stage without breaking this rule. Not long ago, Ling Jian killed a female disciple because she said that Ling Jian was her biological father and didn't want her biological mother to be killed. At the same time, more than a dozen disciples from the powerful families of the Hanhai Empire were killed. Now, the Hanhai Empire came to seek revenge. It might not be a massacre, but there would definitely be some humiliation. Wang Xian didn't care too much about the gossip outside. When he stayed in the Heaven's Pride Pavilion until night time, he returned directly to the Heaven's Pride stage. Now, he was ranked 20th and could freely enter his own Heaven's Pride stage. After entering the room inside, he continued to study the combined attacks of the 4 attributes. Buzz! 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 Not long after, the Heaven's Pride stone on his body started to tremble. Wang Xian took a look and revealed a faint smile. He's finally here. His body moved and he flew directly towards the Heaven's Pride stage. At this moment, on the 19th Heaven's Pride stage, a young man was standing in the middle with a stick in his hand. When he saw Wang Xian flying over, he revealed a solemn expression. The moment Wang Xian entered the arena, many young men from the surrounding areas entered the arena to watch. Hiss, the nameless Heaven's Pride has continued to challenge again. Is this the nameless Heaven's Pride? Is he really 26? Oh my god, he's too young. He has started to challenge the 19th place's Zhou Yanjun. I don't think Zhou Yanjun is his match. Definitely not a match for him. The nameless Heaven's favorite is simply too strong. He is at least in the top 10, or even higher. Tens of thousands of people swarmed in. Many of them were curious as this was the first time they saw Wang Xian. As for those who called him a nameless rat, they no longer existed. All they could do was exclaim in admiration. The 19th place of the Heaven's favorite, Zhou Yanjun, please enlighten me. Zhou Yanjun was obviously aware of Wang Xian's battle record. He cupped his hands with a solemn expression. You are not my match. Wang Xian cupped his hands lightly at him to show his respect and said directly. I know, but I want to see how big the gap is between us. I will not admit defeat directly. Zhou Yanjun's face revealed a determined look. He held the cudgel with both hands and made an offensive stance. Wang Xian smiled with a hint of admiration in his eyes. As expected of a heaven's chosen disciple. However, Wang Xian did not show any mercy. With a shake of the long sword in his hand, streams of golden sharp swords shot towards Zhou Yanjun. Ha! He shouted softly and swung the cudgel directly, stirring up the space within a 1,000-meter radius. The 13th-ranked Heaven's Pride young man was cultivating on the arena. The increase of spiritual energy had reached 4 times. To many people, it was considered a pretty good paradise. Just as Wang Xian was about to continue comprehending the combination of the 4 attributes, the communication stone plate received Long Xiaotian's message. "Are you here?" Wang Xian saw the message and stood up with a smile on his face. His body moved and he flew towards his residence. He still had some void interpretation level weapons and armor in his hands. There were a total of 6 of them and none of them had been sold. 6 of them were all above the first level of the void interpretation level. Each of them was worth at least 50 to 60 billion mid-grade spirit stones. 6 of them were worth at least 300 billion mid-grade spirit stones. Long Xiaotian said that he would help him sell all of these weapons and armors. He knew that Long Xiaotian wanted to rope him in, so he did not reject him. He had already considered Long Xiaotian as a friend. If he helped him, he would naturally help him as well. After Wang Xian left the Heaven's Pride stage, he took off his mask and black robe. Then, he quickly flew towards his residence. When he arrived at the pine and poplar forest, there were 5 to 6 middle-aged elders standing in front of his residence. Other than the familiar Bai Qingsong, Wang Xian had never seen the other 5 people. However, Wang Xian could feel a strong energy from them. This was especially so for the white-haired old man in the middle. When Wang Xian looked at the old man was also sizing him up. His eyes were sparkling. "Brother Wang Xian." Long Xiaotian smiled when he saw Wang Xian. He shouted immediately. Wang Xian nodded with a smile. "Brother Xiaotian, who are these?" "These are the people from the Guanglong Kingdom. They are some of my elders." Long Xiaotian did not introduce them in detail. Wang Xian nodded at the middle-aged elders. "Come in, everyone. Since Brother Xiaotian is the one who introduced me, I will sell the last 6 weapons and armor to you at a 10% discount on the market price." Wang Xian opened the door and said with a smile. "Haha, little brother is really loyal. No wonder Xiaotian is able to become friends with you." An elder laughed out loud as he looked at Wang Xian with a friendly gaze. "I only make friends with the right people. Brother Xiaotian, you are a good person." Wang Xian responded with a smile and led them into the courtyard. Long Xiaotian was delighted when he heard Wang Xian's words. He gestured to the elders and followed them in. Roar! Roar! Seeing Wang Xian's arrival, Ling Zilin and the Blood Evil Turtle let out low roars and walked over one by one as if they were trying to curry favor with him. Wang Xian patted their heads and took out their weapons and armor before handing them over to Long Xiaotian. "Show these weapons to the seniors." "All right." Long Xiaotian took them over and passed them to a few middle-aged and old men. The few of them held them in their hands and looked at them. Satisfaction appeared on their faces. "Not bad, Xiaotian. Pass the spiritual liquid directly to your brother." The white-haired old man in the middle looked at it. A satisfied expression appeared on his face and he nodded his head immediately. "All right." Long Xiaotian smiled and nodded his head. He passed the bottles of spiritual liquid to Wang Xian one by one. Chapter 1241, Battle Prodigy 7. This young man is not simple. Long Xiaotian and the rest did not stay in Wang Xian's courtyard for long. When they walked out, the white-haired old man in the middle turned his head to take a look and said faintly. Brother Wang Xian is very mysterious and his beast-taming skills are also very powerful. I feel that his strength should not be weaker than the first level of the see-through void stage. Long Xiaotian nodded with a smile and continued, Second Grandpa, this is not considered a violation of the rules, right? It is not considered borrowing other powers, right? Hee, it doesn't count, it doesn't count. The white-haired old man shook his head with a smile. You are lucky to be able to know this friend of yours. After he finished speaking, he was silent for a few seconds before he continued, there is a high chance for you to seize this opportunity. Yes, Second Grandpa. I will definitely do it. When Long Xiaotian heard the white-haired old man's words, a hint of excitement flashed across his eyes. His gaze was firm as he hurriedly said. Work hard. Your other brothers aren't bad either. The white-haired old man laughed loudly and patted his shoulder. He said earnestly, if you can bring that young man to your side, your assessment this time is basically stable. Even if he doesn't follow you, with his help, you have a very high chance. The surrounding middle-aged elders were extremely excited when they saw what the white-haired old man said to Long Xiaotian. The white-haired old man was one of the few decision-makers in the selection of the crown prince. They were all experts of the Light Dragon royal family's older generation. Even the king had to call the old man uncle when he saw him. The older generation formed a fair and impartial jury to monitor the fairness of all the prince's assessments. With them monitoring, nothing would go wrong. The princes could forget about borrowing other powers. This time, Long Xiaotian wanted to get his mother's family to buy all the weapons and armor in Wang Xian's hands. However, this matter was related to his mother's family. He called over this white-haired elder, who was also his second grandpa. Xiaotian, work hard. The other four middle-aged elders were from Long Xiaotian's mother's family. His mother's family was also one of the best in the Luminous Dragon Empire. If Long Xiaotian could reach the top, his mother's family would also receive huge benefits. Okay. Long Xiaotian nodded his head heavily. The energy contained in the body of a fourth-level void interpretation expert is really terrifying. I'm definitely not a match for that old man. Wang Xian watched as Long Xiaotian and the rest left. His eyes flickered. If I can master the combination of the 5 elements and become a divine dragon, I should be able to defeat him. With this thought in his mind, Wang Xian took out some food and fed it to Ling Zilin and the blood-evil turtle. Whoa! At this moment, a familiar cry was heard. Wang Xian raised his head and looked at the wall. As expected, Ling Jianhe, who was dressed in white, was hugging Xiao Ha, who was trying to break free. She looked at him. Hey beauty, you can just knock on the door. It's very impolite for you to stand on the wall. Wang Xian looked at her and said in a slightly speechless manner. Ling Jian'er's eyelashes fluttered when she heard her words. Here, this is the remaining spiritual liquid. I don't owe you any more. With a cold expression, she threw a bottle of spiritual liquid and said to him. Ha! Didn't you say you don't want it? Return it to me. Wang Xian looked at her and said in astonishment. However, the cold Ling Jian'er ignored him and turned around to leave. Hee, you really have a personality. Wang Xian looked at the spiritual liquid in his hand and kept it. He would be a fool not to keep it. Let's return to the Heaven's Pride stage. Let's quickly break through the Heaven's Pride roll and think of a way to continue earning spiritual liquid. Wang Xian's figure moved and flew out. However, when Wang Xian flew out, he bumped into Ling Jian'er. Whoa! Xiao Ha also saw Wang Xian and shouted at him. Ling Jian'er turned her head and a hint of doubt flashed in her eyes. Are you going to the Heaven's Pride stage? Wang Xian looked at her and greeted her. Yes. She nodded coldly and remained silent for a while. Are you going there too? Yes, I heard that the Heaven's Pride Bridge will appear there and there will be a selection for the Supreme Talents. I'm going there to watch the show. Wang Xian nodded his head. With your strength, if you ascend to the prodigy stage, you will be able to obtain a good ranking. Ling Jian'er's eyes sparkled as she looked at him. Me? I can't. I heard that the competition on the prodigy roll is very intense now. A 26-year-old young man is ranked 13th. He's really amazing. He's simply too handsome. The corner of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly as he said shamelessly. Really? You can't do it? Wang Xian didn't notice that Ling Jian'er's eyes were filled with disdain when she heard his words. She was already certain that this fellow was Sword Demon. He could kill 2 powerhouses at the first level of the see-through void tier, yet he still said that he couldn't do it. Men were really shameless. No, I'm just going to join in the fun. Ling Jian'er is a beauty. She's actually ranked 4th on the prodigy roll. TSK, I'm envious. Since he had nothing to do, Wang Xian was full of nonsense. Humph. Ling Jian'er snorted. He didn't expect that the extremely cold sword demon in front of the sword mansion would be so shameless. The two of them flew towards the Heaven's Pride stage. Wang Xian and Ling Jian'er would occasionally exchange a few words. Although it wasn't nutritious, it was still much better than walking alone. When they arrived at the Heaven's Pride stage, Wang Xian informed Ling Jian'er before he left and flew towards the Heaven's Pride pavilion. The tea leaves in the Heaven's Pride pavilion were not bad. He was prepared to buy some and drink them in the room where he took them back to the Heaven's Pride stage. Ling Jian'er watched as he left and looked at the Heaven's Pride roll. Nameless? She looked at the name ranked 13th and mumbled, her face revealing a thoughtful expression. Ling Jian'er, you really made it easy for me to find you. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded from the side. Ling Jian'er turned her head around coldly and saw more than 30 people walking towards him. Her eyes flickered with a cold luster. Walking in the middle was Han Mingshan, who was dressed in blue. Beside him was Han Mingqing, who was ranked 7th on the prodigy roll. Around them were a group of elite disciples from the Hanhai dynasty. Among the 30 over people, the weakest was at the 7th level of the Transcendent Realm, while the 9th level of the Transcendent Realm was around 10. Han Mingshan held a water spirit pearl that contained a powerful energy in his hand and played with it. So it's a bunch of trash from the Hanhai dynasty. Ling Jian'er's gaze swept across the crowd as she spoke directly with a face full of disdain. Ling Jian, you're too arrogant. A few days ago, you killed over a dozen disciples of our Hanhai dynasty. Today, I'll make you pay a heavy price. Han Mingshan's expression turned cold as he stared at Ling Jian'er as he spoke with a flickering gaze. The heavy price, with just you. Ling Jian'er looked at them all, there was no trace of fear on his face. Chapter 1242, Battle of the Elites. Ling Jian'er, you are too arrogant. With just us. With just me alone, I can easily cripple you. Han Mingshan's expression turned cold, and a trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. You killed more than 10 elite disciples of our Hanhai dynasty. Ling Jian'er, today, I will make you pay the price. Han Mingqing held a long sword in his hand and pointed it at her. Are you all coming together, or one by one? Ling Jian'er moved her hand, and a long metal sword appeared in her hand, staring coldly at them. What happened? It's Ling Jian'er and the people of the Hanhai dynasty. That's Han Mingqing, and that should be the black horse Han Mingshan who suddenly appeared just now. In just a few short hours, he directly entered the prodigy role and defeated 7 prodigies in one go. He's now ranked 14th on the prodigy role. If that nameless prodigy isn't here, his ranking might continue to rise. I've watched Han Mingshan's battle. He's a prince of the Hanhai dynasty, and his strength is extremely terrifying. All of his opponents were defeated within 5 moves. That Han Mingshan's strength should be even stronger than Han Mingqing's. A few days ago, Ling Jian'er killed over a dozen people from the Hanhai dynasty. Now, It looks like the Hanhai dynasty is coming for revenge. Ling Jian killed Han Mingwen, who was once ranked 17th on the prodigy roll. Han Mingwen is the son of a prince of the Hanhai dynasty. The Hanhai dynasty will definitely not let this go. Two princes want to deal with Ling Jian. This time, Ling Jian is in trouble. Although I don't dare to kill her, I will definitely humiliate her. Around them, some people looked over in surprise when they saw Ling Jian and the people from the Hanhai dynasty gathered. Be it Ling Jian Han Mingqing, or Han Mingshan, they were all the prodigies that everyone was looking at. Especially Ling Jian. She was a woman and ranked 4th on the Heaven's Favorites list. She was extremely powerful. Although Han Mingshan had just appeared on the Heaven's Favorites stage, he had already become the 3rd dark horse after Mu Yuan and Nameless. He had defeated 7 Heaven's Favorites within a few hours. Let me test your strength first. HMPH, a ruthless woman who killed her own mother and killed her own brother and second mother. Just how powerful is she? Han Mingqing's eyes were filled with coldness. You killed my cousin. Today, I will strip you of all your clothes. Shut up and die. When Ling Jian heard Han Mingqing's words, a strong killing intent appeared in her eyes. The golden longsword in her hand directly attacked Han Qingming. The bone-piercing cold light could be clearly felt by everyone within a few hundred meters. Her mother had been killed, and she had killed her younger brother and second mother to take revenge. This was a taboo for her, and it would forever scar her heart. No one was allowed to offend her, much less throw salt on it. Otherwise, she would definitely kill the other party. A few days ago, a woman from the Boundless Sea dynasty had taunted and provoked her, and she had killed more than a dozen people. Haha, good, let's fight. I want to see what a witch who was chased out of the sect by her father is capable of. Han Qingming felt the bone-piercing sharpness, and his expression changed, but he still taunted. People who lost their reason were easier to deal with. They knew Ling Jian's weakness, and they also knew that this matter would make Ling Jian lose her reason. Ling Jian's arms trembled from the attack, and her eyes were slightly moist and bloodshot. Pang, pang, pang. Facing Ling Jian, Han Qingming did not dare to be the slightest bit careless. One water sword after another directly covered Ling Jian. An intense collision sound rang out. Han Qingming directly moved forward, and one after another, powerful water energy attacked Ling Jian. He was ranked 7th on the prodigy roll, and his strength was at the peak of the half-step void interpretation realm. Even if Ling Jian was very strong, it wouldn't be that easy to defeat him. The battle between the prodigies caused the surrounding people to hurriedly retreat. Ha, vicious and merciless witch, today we will teach you a good lesson on behalf of your father. Han Qingming saw that Ling Jian's attacks were a little messy and laughed out loud as he mocked her once again. His voice spread out for a few kilometers and was basically heard by everyone around the Heaven's Pride stage. He called her a witch one after another and each of them was ruthless. This Ling Jian is really unlucky. She fell out with her father, and her mother was killed. She even killed her talented younger brother. The people from the Hanhai dynasty are obviously trying to bully Ling Jian in public and make him collapse. The people from the Heavenly Sword sect are there, but they won't help. That Ling Jian is going to be unlucky today. The surrounding people looked at the two people fighting in the arena, then looked at the other prince behind them and said in a low voice. Not far away from them, a group of youths wearing the Heavenly Sword sect's uniform looked at the arena coldly, without the slightest reaction. Go to hell. When Ling Jian heard his words, she took a deep breath. Her eyes were bloodshot. A golden light flashed across her chest. The golden light was extremely bright as it entered the sword in her hand. Ha, you still can't kill me. Han Mingqing laughed out loud. A look of confidence flashed across his eyes. He knew that he was not Ling Jian's match. However, it was very, very difficult for Ling Jian to kill him. He had a level 2 profound void martial stage armor, and the long sword in Ling Jian-er's hand was also a level 2 profound void martial stage. As long as he escaped, he would definitely not be able to kill him. He came to challenge him, and then asked his elder brother to make a move. Otherwise, if they joined forces to attack, it would make people think that their Hanhai Empire was so weak that they needed to join forces to bully a woman. Seeing a golden ray of light attacking towards him, he held the long sword in both hands and lightly shook it. Boundless Sea Sword Defense. He shouted and the corners of his mouth curled up. He used a sword technique divine ability to meet the ray of golden light. Pooh! However, the next moment, he was stunned. The ray of golden light easily pierced through his divine ability defense. This ray of sword light seemed to be able to pierce through everything as it attacked him. Break for me. Han Mingqing's expression changed slightly. He raised the long sword in his hand and met the golden light directly. When the long sword in his hand landed on the golden light, his expression changed drastically. The arm that was holding the long sword started to bleed. A terrifying sharp light flowed through his arm and entered his body, causing his entire body to feel extremely uncomfortable. He felt as if his body was about to collapse. What attack is this? How can it be so terrifying? His expression changed drastically, and his eyes were filled with fear. Resplendent, origin of gold. A cold voice continued to sound out, causing Han Mingqing's eyes to be filled with shock. Fifth brother, save me. Feeling the even more terrifying golden light attack, Han Mingqing's face was filled with shock as he cried out in fear. His body was in extreme pain, and his body was stiff. There was no way for him to escape. Ha! What? Behind him, the people of the Hanhai dynasty were watching the battle between Han Mingqing and Ling Jian-er. When Han Mingqing suddenly asked for help, they were slightly stunned. Han Mingshan looked over and immediately noticed Han Mingqing's strange expression. His expression changed drastically. Ling Jian-er, stop. If you dare to hurt my seventh brother, no one will be able to save you today. He moved and shouted at Ling Jian-er. Just as he finished his sentence, the Golden Origins attack landed on Han Mingqing. There was no obstruction. In an instant, Han Mingqing was pierced through. His life force disappeared in an instant. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. Chapter 1243, Battle of the Prodigies 2. The prince of the Hanhai dynasty was dead. The matter had blown up. When everyone around saw this scene, two sentences flashed through their minds. It had blown up completely. Everyone's faces were filled with shock as they looked at Ling Jian-er in shock. In the distance, a group of people from the Heavenly Sword sect who were watching this scene had a huge change in their expressions. The prince of the Hanhai Empire was killed by Ling Jian-er, but it was completely different from the last time when Ling Jian-er killed the disciples of the Hanhai Empire. The prince was the son of the king of the Hanhai Empire. It could be said that in terms of status, he was equivalent to the son and daughter of the sect leader of the Heavenly Sword sect. But now, Ling Jian-er actually killed an outstanding prince. The Hanhai Empire would definitely not let this matter go easily. There was already some friction between the two powerful forces. Now that a prince had died, the Hanhai dynasty would definitely take revenge in a frenzy. A prince could already represent the Hanhai dynasty. Killing a prince was undoubtedly putting the Hanhai dynasty's face on the ground and using all their strength to rub against each other. How could the Hanhai dynasty let such an action go so easily? This would even cause a confrontation between the two peak powers, and it would trigger a battle at the insightful void tier. Blood for blood. When Ling Jian-er saw Han Mingqing being penetrated by her golden light, she was slightly stunned. Her blood-red eyes slowly retreated and her chest rose and fell. What? What terrifying destructive power! She clenched her arms tightly and killed Han Qingming directly, which was out of her expectations. She had also truly experienced how terrifying the things she had obtained were. It had caused her attacks to increase by several times. The terrifying penetration and void interpretation level armor were like thin paper. Origin of gold. I didn't expect that I had only absorbed a single golden lotus tree. She mumbled. Ling Jian, you demoness, you ruthless fellow. You actually dared to kill my brother. You must die today. An angry roar resounded through the entire sky. Han Mingshan hugged Han Mingqing's corpse. His entire body was filled with a terrifying killing intent. He stared at Ling Jian and roared sinisterly. Hugging Han Mingqing's corpse, he slowly stood up. You dared to kill the prince of the Hanhai dynasty. Even if your father is a sect of the Heavenly Sword sect, even if your father still recognizes you as a demoness, you must die today. Even if we have to go to war with your Heavenly Sword sect, we will take revenge for this. You dare to kill our prince? Kill her. Surround her. The expressions of the 30 people behind Han Mingshan changed drastically as they surrounded Ling Jian. I have nothing to do with the Heavenly Sword sect. If you dare to insult me, you must be prepared to die. Ling Jian raised her head and looked at everyone around her. Her eyes were extremely cold. Even in such a situation, she was not afraid at all. Damn, Ling Jian is too strong. She is still so strong at this moment. It's over, it's over. If Ling Jian did not kill Han Mingqing, the Hanhai dynasty would definitely not dare to kill him. But now, the Hanhai dynasty will definitely not let her go. If they let Ling Jian off, then the Boundless Sea Empire will lose a lot of face. After all, they are a top-tier power below the Empire. They will definitely not give in. Everyone around looked at Ling Jian and discussed in amazement. At this moment, 80% of the people on the Heaven's Pride stage had gathered here. All of them stared in this direction with their eyes wide open. Good, good. You dare to kill my younger brother? Then today, we will fight to the death. No matter who dares to help you, they will be our enemies. As Han Mingshan spoke, his gaze swept towards the people from the Heavenly Sword sect. Standing in the center of the Heavenly Sword sect was a young man with 5 long swords on his back. When he saw Han Mingshan looking over, he coldly swept his gaze across the arena without the slightest expression. Senior brother Su, should we? Behind him, a young man from the Heavenly Sword sect looked at the scene and frowned slightly. You brought this upon yourself. The eyes of the young man with 5 long swords on his back flickered as he spoke, and there was even a hint of schadenfreude in his eyes. His aunt was the second mother who was killed by Ling Jian and his cousin was also killed by Ling Jian He was already filled with hatred towards Ling Jian If Ling Jian hadn't killed the prince of the vast empire and Han Mingshan wanted to kill her, the people of the Heavenly Sword sect couldn't just stand by and watch. But now, a cold light flashed in his eyes. He had brought this upon himself. If the sect leader really brings her back one day, she will replace me as the most favored disciple of the Heavenly Sword sect. Now, it's even better if she dies. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. This Ling Jian is really courting death. On the other side, Tang Yuan, Tang Ling and some of the Blood Flow Empire's disciples were standing together. Other than them, there were also a few young men. One of them was holding a wooden sword, the other was holding a huge hammer, and the other was holding a huge axe. These few people would occasionally attract the attention of the surrounding people. It was obvious that they were not simple either. Tang Ling saw Han Mingqing who had died and her expression changed slightly. She said with a face full of disgust. Ling Jian's attack just now was a little strange. However, if no one saved her, she should be dead. Tang Yuan looked at Ling Jian and said to his sister. Who dares to save her? Even the people from the Heavenly Sword sect might not be able to save her, let alone the others. Who dares to do so? Tang Ling sneered from the side. Hurry up, something big has happened outside. What big thing? Didn't you guys hear the sound just now? Ling Jian and the people from the Hanhai dynasty are fighting. Furthermore, Ling Jian killed Prince Han Mingqing. This matter has blown up. Now, the Hanhai dynasty wants to surround and kill Ling Jian. What? Go, let's go and take a look. In the Heaven's Pride Pavilion, a young man suddenly walked in and said loudly to the few young men inside. His words caused everyone in the Heaven's Pride Pavilion to be stunned. The Heaven's Pride Pavilion had an array formation, so the soundproofing was very good. They didn't hear what was happening outside. When they heard the young man's words, most of them stood up and walked outside with faces full of surprise. Ling Jian Han Mingqing. Each and every one of them was a Heaven's favorite who was the center of attention. Now that such a thing had happened, they naturally had to go out and take a look. Wang Xian was sitting in front of the service counter with some tea leaves in his hands. He was slightly stunned when he heard the news. A hint of silence appeared on his face. He placed the tea leaves into his interspatial ring and walked out directly. When he walked out of the Heaven's Pride Pavilion, he saw tens of thousands of people gathered in front of him. Wang Xian walked straight in. A mask appeared on his face, completely covering his face. Following that, the coquettish black robe also appeared on his body. The nameless Heaven's Pride had returned. She has caused so much trouble in such a short period of time. What an unlucky woman. Wang Xian moved his body and floated into the sky. He looked inside. Chapter 1244, Battle of the Prodigies 3. No one is to show any mercy. Tear her into pieces and sacrifice her spirit in heaven. In front of the prodigy stage, the prince of the Hanhai dynasty, the third dark horse, Han Mingshan, slowly placed Han Mingqing's body on the ground and roared with a face full of killing intent. Yes! Around them, more than 30 people from the Hanhai dynasty surrounded Ling Jian, their faces filled with anger and killing intent. In the center, Ling Jian's expression was still as cold as ever as she scanned her surroundings. There was not the slightest change in her expression. Even though she had fallen into a desperate situation, she still did not make a move. Oh! Little Ha floated from Ling Jian's shoulder into the air, her cute little face revealing a fierce expression. She was eager to protect her master. Make a move, kill. The surrounding people were silent as they stared at Ling Jian and the people from the Hanhai dynasty. The water spirit pearl in Han Mingshan's hand spun in front of him, and his voice filled with killing intent resounded throughout the sky. There are so many men here, it's not appropriate to bully a lady. Just as he finished speaking, a voice rang out. This stunned the people from the Hanhai Empire who were about to make a move. They looked at the voice with a cold expression. Han Mingshan's expression changed slightly. He turned his murderous gaze over. How embarrassing. To gang up on a girl, tsk. A frivolous and disdainful voice was heard again. The voice was naturally from Wang Xian. He floated in the air and walked slowly towards Ling Jian. The surrounding people were also slightly stunned. Who dared to interfere in this matter? Was he courting death? This was the matter of the Hanhai Empire. Anyone who participated would be making an enemy out of the entire Hanhai Empire. Hiss, how could it be him? The nameless Heaven's Pride is actually the nameless Heaven's Pride. What is he trying to do? Is he a hero saving the damsel in distress? Or did he know Ling Jian in the past? This is the nameless Heaven's favorite trying to help Ling Jian? Everyone was stunned for a moment, and their faces were filled with shock. They watched as Wang Xian flew to Ling Jian's side, and their eyes were wide open. Ling Jian's eyes were filled with shock as well. She looked at Wang Xian, and there was an inexplicable glow in her eyes. Whoa! Xiao Ha, who was floating in the sky, blinked her eyes in confusion and called out excitedly. Nameless prodigy? When Han Mingshan saw Wang Xian's figure, a cold glint flashed in his eyes. Are you here to court death? Wang Xian looked at Han Mingshan and revealed a smile in his eyes. It's a pity that all of you don't have the ability to do so. A sense of confidence and contempt was emitted from Wang Xian's body. This nonchalant aura that didn't put the people from the Hanhai Empire in his eyes shocked everyone around him. As expected of a nameless heaven's favorite. This aura is definitely not something that an ordinary person can possess. A young man looked at Wang Xian's indifferent expression and was full of astonishment. Thank you. Ling Jian'er's eyes flickered as she looked at Wang Xian and said softly. Wang Xian waved his hand as if he did not care at all. You don't have the ability? Kid, you are too arrogant. Since you want to help this witch, you shall die with him. Around them, a young man from the Hanhai Empire roared with murderous intent in his eyes. Come on then. I really want to see how you guys are going to let me die. Huh. Wang Xian chuckled as he swept his gaze across more than 30 people around him. Hiss, this nameless heaven's favorite is really going to help Ling Jian. It's hard to say now. The terrifying metal and water attributes on Ren Xingqian's body were fully unleashed, and he directly unleashed his divine ability, slashing towards him. Hearing his words, Mu Yuan's face revealed a sullen expression. Should I die? Fuck, how could there be such a reason? This Ren Xingqian is too violent. Why did he attack directly? Moreover, his attack contained killing intent. He wants to kill Mu Yuan. What Ren Xingqian said just now was that you don't have the qualifications to be on par with him. In that case, Ren Xingqian is acting on behalf of the Nameless Heaven's favorite. The Nameless Heaven's favorite and Ren Xingqian have a good relationship. He actually caused Ren Xingqian to be filled with killing intent. This is really a series of twists and turns. Even Ren Xingqian, who is ranked third on the prodigy roll, has appeared. Oh my god! Ren Xingqian's sudden attack and sudden disruption caused everyone to be stunned. Even Ling Jian and Wang Xian were slightly stunned. This Ren Xingqian was too violent. He didn't say a word and just killed him directly. This guy recognized me. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows and looked at Ren Xingqian. Are you going to make a move? He looked at Ling Jian and asked calmly. You. Ling Jian opened her mouth. Kill him. Wang Xian didn't wait for her to finish her sentence. He waved the scabbard in his hand. A golden glow attacked the surroundings. The combination of metal and water. Wang Xian liked this move very much. He would swing his arm over and the golden glow would sweep through everything. Ah! Wang Xian's sudden attack caused screams to ring out from the surroundings. More than 10 people died in one strike. Only 2 young men who were at the half-step void interpretation realm were able to withstand Wang Xian's casual attack. Ling Jian was stunned. She stared at Han Mingshan and shouted, "Kill!" The bright golden light instantly attacked him. Kill! Kill them all! Ren Xingqian's appearance and Wang Xian's sudden attack had killed more than 10 people. Ling Jian'er's attack made Han Mingshan roar in anger as he went up to meet her head-on. Leave that Mu Yuan to me. Wang Xian used a horizontal sweep to intimidate the remaining 20 or so people who were surrounding them. He looked at Mu Yuan, who was being suppressed by Ren Xingqian. A faint sneer appeared on his face. Yes. Ren Xingqian didn't dare to disobey him. He immediately retreated from the position where he was attacking Ren Xingqian. Let me see what qualifications you have. Wang Xian flew straight towards Mu Yuan. The sword in his hand was still unsheathed. It was still of the metal attribute. It was a supernatural ability, the Golden Tear Void. Damn it! Mu Yuan's forehead was covered in cold sweat. When he saw that Ren Xingqian was no longer attacking him, He heaved a sigh of relief. He stared at Wang Xian and his chest was filled with killing intent. He wanted to vent his anger on this damn fellow. Would not it strangle? Faced with Wang Xian's divine ability, he also used his divine ability and attacked the gold-splitting void. Bang! 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 The two powerful divine abilities collided. However, what shocked Mu Yuan was that his would-knotted strangle was directly penetrated by the golden needles. The terrifying golden light covered his body. Mu Zong! His pupils couldn't help but shrink as his body emitted a dazzling green light. On the ground, thorns as thick as an arm directly coiled around his body. Mu Zong, would attribute divine ability. This move, Mu Zong, could both attack the enemy and protect himself. It was the divine ability he was most proud of. Pooh pooh pooh. However, when the golden rays of light attacked, his wooden burial was easily shattered. Countless rays of golden light pierced through his body. Chapter 1246, Thousand Leaves and Nameless. How is this possible? This is impossible. The time that Wang Xian and Mu Yuan fought was very short. It was less than 2 seconds. Just when everyone was stunned by the sudden outbreak of the battle, Mu Yuan was already dead. He widened his eyes and looked at his chest in disbelief. How could this be? He had used 2 divine abilities to fight against the opponent's 1 divine ability. How could he not win? TSK, with such strength, you still dare to come forward and throw your life away? Wang Xian shook his head in disdain. What? At this moment, it was as though the entire space had quieted down. Everyone widened their eyes and stared in disbelief at Mu Yuan, who was slowly falling to the ground. He died just like that? Tang Yuan and Tang Ling's bodies trembled as they muttered. He died just like that. This was too fast. Instant kill. Hiss. Around them, orderly gasps of cold air could be heard. They stared blankly at Wang Xian, who was wearing a mask and a black robe. They were extremely shocked. Just now, even Ren Xingqian was unable to defeat Mu Chen within 5 to 6 moves. He could only suppress him. However, the nameless genius only used 1 move. The nameless genius is stronger than Ren Xingqian. Otherwise, Ren Xingqian wouldn't have said that Mu Yuan doesn't have the qualifications to compete with him. A young man thought of what Ren Xingqian had just said and took a deep breath as he said in a daze. The people beside him nodded in agreement. No. His strength. Han Mingshan, who was fighting Ling Jian'er, glanced past Mu Yuan, who was instantly killed, and his eyes widened. Pang pang pang. Just as he was in a daze, a resplendent sword ray landed on his chest. His expression changed slightly, and blue light blossomed on his body. The area on his chest directly condensed into a terrifying whirlpool. The armor on his body was immediately activated. However, when this resplendent sword ray landed on his body, a terrifying collision sound was heard. Han Mingshan's expression changed drastically as he stared at Ling Jian'er. How can your sword ray be so terrifying? He knew that his strength was not weaker than Ling Jian'er, but now he realized that he was wrong. Awe! Around him, screams could be heard as his face turned red. Run! A roar came out from his throat. A pair of water wings appeared directly behind him. His entire body was like a swift and violent stream of water as he fled into the distance. Ling Jian'er looked at him fleeing and frowned slightly. She did not give chase. The other elite disciples of the Hanhai Empire who were being massacred by Ren Xingqian also fled into the distance hurriedly. Seeing that Ling Jian'er did not chase after them, Wang Xian did not make a move either. Whoa! Xiao Ha looked at Wang Xian excitedly. His body moved and he pounced towards him directly. Wang Xian was slightly stunned when he saw Xiao Ha pouncing towards him. The quality of this dog's meat is not bad. It should be very delicious. Xiao Ha, come over here. Ling Jian shouted as she walked towards Wang Xian when she heard that Wang Xian was trying to cover up. Ren Xingqian also walked towards Wang Xian with burning eyes. Let's go. Wang Xian glanced at them and threw Xiaoha to Ling Jian. He then turned around and walked towards the Heaven's Pride stage. He looked at the tens of thousands of people around him and a faint smile appeared on his face. Heaven's Pride experts who are ranked ahead of me, please return to the Heaven's Pride stage. I want to break through the Heaven's Pride ranking. Don't waste my time. The light words came from his mouth, causing all the young men to be stunned. Wang Xian ignored them and flew towards the Heaven's Pride stage. Ren Xingqian didn't hesitate and chased after him directly. Ling Jian's eyes flickered as she looked at his figure. She also chased after him directly. Break through the Heaven's Pride ranking. How strong is this nameless Heaven's Pride expert? He killed Mu Yuan in a single move. This nameless prodigy should have the strength to break through the prodigy role. Originally, it was the people from the Boundless Sea Empire who were attacking Ling Jian. Now, they are fleeing in fear. That nameless prodigy is too terrifying. Tens of thousands of gazes stared at the three figures as they gasped in shock. Sixth brother, do you think fourth brother is a match for him? Tang Ling's expression changed drastically as she looked at Tang Yuan with uncertainty. A few days ago, second brother said that he might not be a match for Ren Xingqian. Tang Yuan's eyes flickered as he said slowly. After saying this, he did not say anything else. This was because everyone could see that the nameless prodigy was stronger than Ren Xingqian. This ranking, perhaps no one can stop the nameless prodigy. A young man sighed and said heavily. Who said that? Our Divine Wind Academy's senior Qian Yi is definitely stronger than him. At this moment, a voice of objection sounded. A young man dressed in Divine Wind Academy's uniform raised his head with an unconvinced expression. With our senior Qian Yi's strength, that nameless prodigy is definitely not a match for him. That's right, our senior Qian Yi is the strongest. Pitch, back then, our senior also defeated a top 10 genius with a single move. I feel that even Qian Yi isn't a match for the nameless genius. Mu Yuan is ranked 9th. Yet he was able to insta-kill him with a single move. What kind of concept is that? Even Qian Yi isn't able to do it. That's right. It's obvious that the nameless genius is powerful. Qian Yi is definitely not a match for him. Nonsense. Our senior brother Qian Yi is the strongest in the younger generation. No one is his match. Everyone from the Divine Wind Academy. Is it so difficult to admit that someone else is strong? It's definitely the nameless prodigy. Bullshit, I dare say that as long as the nameless prodigy dares to challenge our senior Qian Yi, he will definitely be taught a good lesson. Suddenly, the entire Heaven's Pride stage became lively as voices of debate rang out one after another. Many people believed that the nameless Heaven's Pride expert was the strongest and could defeat the entire Heaven's Pride ranking. On the other hand, the Divine Wind Academy and some others believed that Qian Yi was the strongest and that the nameless Heaven's Pride expert was definitely not a match for her. Slowly, more and more people joined in and almost started arguing. They were just short of picking up their weapons and starting a fight. Compared to Qian Yi, that nameless expert is still a little lacking. Tang Yuan swept his gaze across the group of people who were arguing. He walked straight into the Heaven's Pride Pavilion with a bad look on his face. A battle between the Hanhai Empire and Ling Jian had ended in the dispute between the nameless Heaven's Pride expert and Qian Yi. Senior. At this moment, Ren Xingqian, who was chasing Wang Xian to the Heaven's Pride stage, shouted at Wang Xian hesitantly. Alright, hurry up and hide when you have nothing to do. Don't let the people from the Hanhai Empire kill you. Wang Xian turned around and said to Ren Xingqian with a frown. Senior, I want to follow you. Ren Xingqian lowered his head and said weakly to Wang Xian. You're so weak. Don't hold me back. Wang Xian shook his head and looked at Ling Jian, who was beside him. I want to repay you for saving my life. Ling Jian looked at him and said. Chapter 1247, The Top 5 on the Prodigy Roll. Wang Xian looked at Ren Xingchen and then at Ling Jian. Both of them had saved them before, but they were not the kind of people who would pull out their swords to help out when they saw injustice. He would not have made a move if he did not have some connections. However, Wang Xian was not interested in letting them follow him. Both of them were very strong. They were ranked 3rd and 4th on the prodigy roll. However, that was all. He would be a burden if he brought the two of them along. Furthermore, they could not be like the members of the Dragon Palace who had unlimited potential to improve themselves. Especially in the tomb of the demi-human. It was even more impossible for him to bring them along. You guys should stop causing trouble for me. You have provoked the Hanhai dynasty. Now, you should think about how to escape from their pursuit. Wang Xian looked at Ling Jian, shook his head, and said in a speechless manner. After he finished speaking, he looked at Ren Xingchen and shrugged. If you guys are stronger than me, I would be happy to follow you. However, it's better to forget about it now. After Wang Xian finished speaking, he waved his hand at them. With a move, he entered the Heaven's Pride stage that belonged to him. Ling Jian and Ren Xingchen frowned slightly as they watched him enter. I will definitely catch up to Senior as soon as possible. Definitely. After a long silence, Ren Xingchen revealed a determined expression and clenched his fists tightly. After he finished speaking, he flew towards the Heaven's Pride stage that belonged to him. Ling Jian stood there in a daze as she looked ahead. Her cold expression seemed to have melted. Ao. Xiao Ha, who was at the side, licked her face and cried out. She slowly lowered her head and flew towards her Heaven's Pride stage. The Heaven's Pride stage was extremely safe. Even the top experts of the Hanhai Empire would not be able to break through it. Moreover, the entire Heaven's Pride stage occupied a 5-kilometer radius. If the experts of the Hanhai Empire really came here to kill them, they could completely hide inside. Therefore, it was very safe to stay in the Heaven's Pride stage. The Luhai region was very, very large, and the entire area was at least 2 to 3 times the size of Earth. About 10,000 kilometers away from the Ladyboy graveyard, there was a huge mountain range. In this mountain range, a mountain peak that pierced straight into the clouds was exceptionally eye-catching. The entire mountain peak emitted golden light, and its shape was like a sharp sword. At the top of the Golden Sword Mountain, a white-haired middle-aged man stood there. The white clouds passed through his waist, making him look like an immortal god. In front of him, there was a golden long sword. Natural disasters, earthly calamities, and human lives. You brought this upon yourself. You can't live. The white-haired middle-aged man seemed to have stood there for a very, very long time. He murmured, but his voice was like thunder. No matter how sharp a sword is, there is still something that cannot be broken. The sword of gold, the sword of slaughter. He raised his head slightly, his eyes still closed. Each word came out of his mouth one by one. When each word came out of his mouth, an incomparably sharp golden longsword of 100 meters appeared in the sky. The longsword was filled with endless killing intent, as if it wanted to cut through everything. It's the sect leader's voice, it's the sect leader's voice. It's been 7 years, a whole 7 years. Clang 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 clang. What's going on? Why is my sword trembling? Mine too, I can't control it any longer. Heavens, quickly look at the sky. The entire Sword Mountain seemed to have awoken. On the Sword Mountain, over 10,000 disciples raised their heads and looked towards the sky. Experts flew out from the cave abodes of the Sword Mountain and looked up into the sky. Sect Master, it's been 7 years. Sect Master has been standing there for 7 years. Sect Master, this is going to happen. The elders looked up at the peak of the mountain with excitement on their faces. Sword of gold. At this moment, the thunderous voice sounded again. The golden sword. After saying these 3 words, the voice seemed to be deep in thought, as if it was comprehending something. Sword of protection, all the killing is because of protection. When the last sentence was said, hundreds of terrifying longswords in the sky began to revolve around the peak of the mountain. The terrifying longswords carried a dazzling golden light. Below, the metal longswords in everyone's hands were all trembling. Sect Master, this is. The heavenly sword sect is fortunate. An old man raised his head and looked up. His body was trembling, and tears flowed down his face. All killing is because of protection. An old man holding a sword staff muttered, and then his expression changed slightly. Quickly send someone to welcome the young miss back. Old Ling, you go personally and lead 10 insightful void martial artists, no, 20. You must escort the young miss back safely. You must be quick. The pale-faced elder with the sword staff ordered loudly. Yes. Around them, an elder hurriedly responded, his eyes flickering with a luster. The sect master who had been silent for 7 years had awoken. Moreover, he had broken through the demonic barrier 7 years ago and comprehended a Dharma idol. Guardian. Just these 2 words, they knew what this meant. Especially when it was coupled with the words the natural disaster, the earthly calamity, and the human life that had just begun, they had brought their own sins upon themselves, and could not live. He knew that the sect leader had already completely walked out. However, after walking out, he would be protected. Everyone knew who he was protecting. The other places did not know what had happened in the Heaven Sword sect. On the prodigy stage, the nameless Heaven's Pride expert began his journey of breaking through. According to the words he had once said in front of the prodigy stage, he wanted to break through the prodigy role. Among them, 80% of them thought that the nameless Heaven's Pride expert had such strength because the strength that he displayed was simply too terrifying. The Heaven's Pride battle began. The next few battles were as expected. Tang Ling, who was ranked 13th among the Heaven's Pride experts, immediately admitted defeat. Those ranked 12th, 11th, 10th, and 9th all admitted defeat. The moment Wang Xian issued the challenge, they immediately admitted defeat. There was no need for them to accept the challenge. Although they were all Heaven's favorites and it was against their will to be strong if they didn't fight, they didn't have the qualifications to fight against a Heaven's favorite who had defeated them in an instant. All the way to the 9th place, all of them surrendered. All the way to the 8th place, they wanted to fight back. In the end, they were defeated within 5 moves. The 7th place, they were defeated within 5 moves. The 6th place, Tang Yuan, directly surrendered and did not fight with them. The 5th place, Luo Shihua, directly surrendered and did not fight with them. All the way to the 5th place, it only took a short day. However, in this one day, there were 2 battles that attracted the attention of everyone, causing everyone to be extremely shocked. One was Ren Xingqian challenging Tang Feng, who was ranked 2nd, and Tang Feng was defeated. Following that, Ling Jian challenged Tang Feng, who was ranked 3rd, and Tang Feng was defeated once again. Now, the prodigy role had completely changed. Qian Yi, who was ranked 1st, Ren Xingqian, who was ranked 2nd, Ling Jian, who was ranked 3rd, and Tang Feng, who was ranked 4th. As well as the nameless person who was ranked 5th. Only the top 5 on the prodigy roll were truly peerless prodigies. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.